The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. The Invitation. The Invitation. Margaret Leah had always found solace in the musty scent of old books and the quietude of her father's antiquarian bookshop. It was her refuge, a place to retreat from the world and the unspoken grief of losing her twin sister at a young age, a sorrow that clung to her like the shadow of an old goat. But today, as she sifted through a pile of letters and manuscripts on her desk, one peculiar envelope caught her eye, sealed with a wax stamp bearing the initials VW Vita Winter. With a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, Margaret opened the envelope. Inside, she found an invitation written in a bold, looping script. Dear Margaret Leah, your reputation as a biographer precedes you, and I am convinced you are the ideal person to document the true story of my life. I invite you to my home in Yorkshire, where I will unveil the secrets I have never revealed to another soul. Will you accept? Yours sincerely, Vita Winter. Margaret's heart raced. Vita Winter was a legend, a best-selling author whose novels, like The Haunting Twice is Forever and the enigmatic The Puppet Show, were shrouded in as much mystery as her own life. Why would she choose Margaret? And what truths lay hidden behind the walls of her Gothic Yorkshire home? As Margaret packed her bags, she couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would be about more than just Vita's story. It was a chance to confront her own past, to understand the sorrow that lingered like a shadow in her heart. Upon her arrival at the grand, imposing house, Margaret was greeted by Judith, the housekeeper, whose sharp gray eyes and tightly pulled-back hair gave her a commanding presence. Miss Winter has been expecting you, she said, leading Margaret through the dark, winding corridors. Finally, they reached the library where Vita Winter awaited. The room was a cathedral of books, with towering shelves and a large fireplace casting dancing shadows on the walls. The air was rich with the scent of leather-bound volumes and the subtle hint of wood polish. Each step on the polished floorboards echoed in the vast space, filled with the soft glow of amber-shaded lamps. Miss Leah, I'm delighted you could come, Vita said, her voice strong yet tinged with the frailty of illness. She gestured to a chair by the fire. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. As they talked, Vita's tale began to unfold. A story of a tumultuous past, a family torn apart by secrets, and a house that held the echoes of 1,000 whispers. Margaret listened, captivated by the author's words, feeling the threads of their lives intertwining. The night grew late, and the fire dwindled to embers. Margaret knew this was only the beginning. The invitation had opened the door to a labyrinth of mysteries, and together they would navigate its twists and turns. For now, though, Margaret had her first clue. A photograph Vita handed her, featuring two young girls with hauntingly similar faces. The twins, Vita said, her eyes reflecting the flames. Adeline and Emmeline, their story is where we begin, and it's a story that will lead us down a path of secrets, love, and tragedy. As Margaret gazed at the photograph, she felt an inexplicable connection to the twins, as if their lives were somehow linked to her own. Tell me more, Margaret urged, her curiosity piqued. Vita's eyes seemed to cloud over, lost in thought. It's a long story, Miss Leah. One that spans generations. But to understand it, we must start with Angelfield, the house where I spent my childhood. Margaret leaned forward, her notebook and pen at the ready. I'm listening, she whispered, her eyes never leaving Vita's face. Vita's gaze drifted to the dancing flames in the fireplace as she began to speak. I was born in a big house by the sea, a house filled with secrets and lies. My mother was a beautiful, mysterious woman who kept to herself, and my father was a distant figure, always preoccupied with his business affairs. I was an only child, until one day I discovered the truth about my sister. The twin I never knew I had. Echoes of Angelfield. Margaret navigated the overgrown garden, approaching the silent Angelfield house, a place she knew well from Vita's stories. The house, once filled with life, now stood quiet, its history etched into the very dust that lay thick upon its forgotten treasures. In the library, Margaret discovered a diary belonging to Charlie, a figure from her family's past whose life had intertwined with Isabel's, the girl whose mysterious disappearance had cast a shadow over the Angelfield legacy. As she read Charlie's diary, Margaret felt the echo of his despair. "I've searched to no end," he wrote. "Isabel is gone, and with her, the spirit of this place." His words painted a picture of a man lost in the absence of his sister, grappling with the emptiness her absence had left behind. Margaret's journey through the diary revealed the challenges Charlie faced, including the mischievous antics of two children, not twins but closely bonded, who roamed the estate with an almost supernatural synchrony. Their presence in the village sparked whispers of curses, yet Charlie saw beyond the rumors, recognizing their uniqueness even as it unsettled him. Closing the diary, Margaret felt a surge of determination. The secrets of Angelfield whispered to her, and she was resolved to unearth the truth that lay hidden within these walls. With each step through the dimly lit halls, she sensed the presence of those who had once called this place home. The laughter and tears that had soaked into the wood and stone seemed to reach out to her, guiding her to the heart of Angelfield's enigma. It was here, in the quiet solitude of the house, that Margaret vowed to piece together the fragmented history of the Angelfield family, to bring light to the shadows that had long obscured their story. Her resolve was clear. She would find the answers that the house, in its silent vigil, had guarded for so long. The peculiar twins. In the heart of Angelfield House, where the walls whispered secrets of the past, the peculiar twins, Adeline and Emmeline, lived a life quite unlike any other. The villagers often spoke of the twins in hushed tones, their stories becoming the stuff of local legend. One crisp morning, as the mist clung to the ground, Hester, the governess, appeared in the garden where the twins were playing. "Adeline, Emmeline, what is this commotion?" she demanded, her gaze stern. The cook, who had followed Hester out, sighed. "Those girls are a handful." Hester shook her head, her eyes reflecting a mix of concern and frustration. She ushered the twins back into the house, determined to find a way to help them. As the days passed, Hester sat with the twins in the nursery, trying to engage them in conversation. But they only responded in their strange language, their eyes gleaming with a knowing light. Suddenly, Emmeline looked up at Hester and spoke in perfect English. "We don't want to be separated." Her voice was laced with a deep sadness, and for a moment Hester saw a glimmer of something almost human beneath the twins' peculiar exterior. Hester's heart went out to them. She knew she had to find a way to help these enigmatic children, to unravel the mystery that shrouded their lives. But as she looked into their eyes, she couldn't shake off the feeling that she was merely scratching the surface of a much darker truth. The twilight deepened, and the house seemed to hold its breath as Hester pondered the twins' plea. She realized that their bond was more profound than she had ever imagined. In the silence of the nursery, with only the soft whisper of the wind against the windows, Hester made a silent vow to protect the twins' unity at all costs. For in their unity she saw not just a peculiar oddity, but a rare and delicate strength that deserved to be nurtured. As night fell over Angelfield House, Hester whispered a promise to the sleeping forms of Adeline and Emmeline. "I will understand your world." And with that, the house settled into a peaceful slumber, the secrets of the day folding into the shadows of the night. Governess of order. Hester Barrows stepped into the chaotic Angelfield house, her eyes widening at the state of disarray that greeted her. The air was thick with dust and the musty scent of neglect. She had been hired as the new governess, tasked with bringing order and discipline to the unruly household. "I'm here to see Miss Adeline and Miss Emmeline," Hester announced to the housekeeper, Mrs. Stiles, who eyed her warily. "They're in the schoolroom, ma'am," Mrs. Stiles replied, her tone skeptical. "But I must warn you, they've driven away every governess who's come before you." Undeterred, Hester made her way to the schoolroom, where she found the twins, Adeline and Emmeline, huddled in a corner. "Good morning, girls," Hester said, her voice firm yet kind. "I'm Miss Barrow, your new governess. We're going to make some changes around here, starting with a nice warm bath for both of you." "We don't want a bath," Emmeline spoke up. "Nonsense, a bath will make you feel refreshed and clean," Hester replied, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Now, come along. We'll start with brushing out those tangled locks." Hester's heart went out to them as she began to gently untangle their matted hair. Over the next several weeks, Hester implemented a strict routine for the twins. She ensured they rose early, ate nutritious meals, and spent their days engaged in lessons and creative pursuits. Emmeline in particular took a shine to their new governess, thriving under the structure and attention. She even began to enjoy the baths that Hester insisted upon, taking delight in her own reflection after being scrubbed clean. However, Adeline and her brother Charlie remained distant and resistant to Hester's efforts. They seemed to view her presence as an intrusion, their eyes often filled with suspicion and resentment. One day, as Hester was teaching the twins about the natural world, Adeline suddenly spoke up. "Why are you really here, Miss Barrow?" she asked. "Are you here to control us and make us obedient?" Hester paused, considering her response. "I'm here to guide you, to provide structure and care. But most importantly, I'm here to help you discover your strengths and find your own paths. I want to see you grow into confident, independent young women." Adeline's gaze softened slightly, but Charlie remained unmoved. "We don't need your help," he muttered, turning away. Hester continued to enforce her rules and routines, all while offering the twins the love and support they so desperately needed. Over time, the house began to transform under her watchful eye, becoming a place of order and calm amidst the lingering shadows of its turbulent past. The Unraveling. The morning sun struggled to pierce the thick fog that clung to Angelfield House, a stark contrast to the day Hester Barrow, the governess, had left. Her departure, though sudden, was not without cause. The house's eerie calmness and Charlie's uncharacteristic silence since she left hinted at her influence over both. In the wake of her absence, the twins, Adeline and Emmeline, felt the weight of the house's oppressive atmosphere. "Emmeline, where are you?" called out Adeline, her voice a beacon in the stillness. In the library came Emmeline's distant reply, her words nearly swallowed by the musty air. Adeline found Emmeline amidst the ruins of their once majestic library. "We must navigate this new reality together," Adeline declared, her hand extended in solidarity. "But why did she leave us?" Emmeline's voice trembled, her eyes searching the dim corners for answers. "The house, it seems to breathe differently without her, as if it's returned to its true, untamed nature," Adeline mused, her thoughts wandering to the halted repairs and the quiet that now blanketed the estate. The twins spent the day roaming the halls, their isolation palpable. The laughter that once filled the rooms was now a ghost of the past, much like the house itself, which seemed to decay in tandem with their sense of loss. "I fear we may be truly alone now," Emmeline whispered, her voice echoing in the empty hallway. "Hester was our shield against this place, and now we're exposed." As the day turned to dusk, the sisters sought refuge in the nursery, their sanctuary from the encroaching darkness. "Do you remember the tales Hester told us?" Emmeline asked, her eyes sparkling with a faint glimmer of hope. "Of valiant knights and enchanted creatures?" Adeline replied, a nostalgic smile softening her features. Let's imagine we're in one of those tales, Emmeline suggested, her voice steadying with determination. Perhaps we'll find the strength to face tomorrow. As they huddled together, the twins wove stories of heroism and wonder, their imaginations a shield against the uncertainties that lay ahead. But as sleep pulled them into its embrace, questions lingered like shadows. Questions of Hester's abrupt departure, of the secrets Angelfield House still kept, and of their own resilience in the face of adversity. The calm before the storm had passed, and now the twins braced themselves for whatever lay ahead, their bond their only certainty in a world that felt increasingly uncertain. In the days that followed, a new presence emerged within Angelfield House, a figure that seemed to embody the very essence of duality. This enigmatic individual, with a face that reflected both light and shadow, challenged the twins' perceptions and forced them to confront their inner contradictions. As they navigated this complex web of identity and morality, they discovered that their bond, though tested, remained their guiding light through the darkness. Secrets Unveiled. Margaret stood beside Aurelius in the dimly lit room, the forgotten space hidden within the walls of Angelfield. "What is this place?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "This was Charlie's sanctuary," Aurelius replied, his hand trembling as he offered her a weathered diary. "He left it behind, and I believe it holds answers." As Margaret leafed through the diary, the narrative of Charlie's life unfolded, a tale of neglect and the heavy mantle of legacy. His words painted a vivid picture of his struggles and the enigmatic circumstances surrounding his departure. "Why did he leave us with nothing but questions?" Margaret pondered aloud, her fingers tracing the ink-stained pages. Aurelius's gaze met hers, filled with the same unanswered questions. "Perhaps some truths are only meant to be felt, not known," he suggested. Their discussion turned to Vita Winter, her health waning like the last flicker of a candle. It was Judith who had insisted on shielding Margaret from the truth, but the diary in her hands was a testament to the inevitable. Vita's story was nearing its end. Margaret closed the diary, a resolve settling in her heart. The secrets of Angelfield, once shrouded in shadows, now beckoned her to delve deeper. With each secret uncovered, the path to understanding Vita Winter's End's legacy became clearer. She felt a chill as she realized that the diary was not just a recounting of past events, but a map to the truth. The shadows of Angelfield seemed to lean closer, as if eager to whisper their long-held secrets directly into her ear. "We'll find the answers, Margaret," Aurelius said, his voice steady. "Together we'll bring light to these shadows." The dilapidated house. Emmeline sat on the dusty floor, her back against the cold stone wall of the dilapidated house. The once grand Angelfield estate was now a shadow of its former self, with ivy creeping through the broken windows and the ceiling threatening to give way at any moment. She was alone, or so she thought, until the soft voice of Margaret Leah, the biographer delving into the Angelfield family's past, broke the silence. "Emmeline," Margaret whispered. Her presence felt rather than seen. "Do you remember the games we used to play?" Emmeline nodded, her eyes distant. "I remember," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But those days are gone. Adeline is gone. And I'm here, playing solitaire with a deck of cards missing a queen." Margaret, now a spectral guide in Emmeline's quest for truth, floated closer, the air chilling around them. "But you're not alone. I'm here. And together we can uncover the truth about our past. About Charlie, about the little ghost, and about the bones buried beneath the garden." Emmeline's eyes flickered with a spark of determination. "Yes, the truth," she said, standing up and brushing the dust from her dress. "We must find Aurelius. He's the key to everything." They moved cautiously through the house, avoiding the treacherous spots where the floorboards were weak. Margaret guided Emmeline, their bond strengthened by the shared isolation and the secrets they carried. As they reached the library, Emmeline pulled out a diary from a hidden compartment in the bookshelf. This belonged to Adeline, she said, her fingers tracing the worn leather cover. She wrote about everything. About our family, about the fire, and about the boy who vanished. Margaret leaned in, her form barely perceptible in the dim light. Then let's read it. Let's find the answers and set ourselves free from this place. Together they pored over the diary, the words revealing the dark history of the Angelfield family. The truth about the twins' lineage, the tragic fate of their brother Charlie, and the mysterious little ghost who haunted the estate began to unravel. Emmeline's eyes widened as she read about her own existence, about the twin sister she never knew, and about the secrets that had been hidden for so long. As they delved deeper into the diary, the shadows in the room seemed to grow longer, as if the darkness itself was listening to their whispers. The air was heavy with secrets, and Emmeline felt the weight of her family's history bearing down upon her. Suddenly, a loud creaking sound echoed through the hallway, making them both jump. Margaret's presence receded, leaving Emmeline alone in the dimly lit room. "Who's there?" Emmeline called out, her heart racing. There was no response. The silence was oppressive, and Emmeline knew she had to find out what was happening. She crept out of the library, her senses on high alert, and made her way towards the source of the noise. As she turned a corner, she saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was Aurelius, his eyes fixed on her with an unnerving intensity. "Emmeline," he whispered, his voice low and menacing. "You shouldn't be here." Emmeline stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. But she knew one thing. She couldn't let Aurelius stop her from uncovering the truth. With a resolve steeled by the revelations of the diary, Emmeline faced Aurelius. "I am here because the truth is here," she declared, her voice steady despite her fear. "And I will not leave until it is revealed." Aurelius's gaze softened and the menace in his voice dissipated. "Then you must be prepared for what you find," he said, stepping aside to let her pass. "The truth of the Angelfield family is a labyrinth, and many have lost themselves in its twists and turns." Emmeline nodded, accepting the challenge. She moved past Aurelius, her steps echoing in the silent corridor as she continued her search for answers, the weight of her family's legacy a constant companion. The final tale. In the stillness of the room, with the ghostly tales of the previous night lingering in my mind, I found myself at Emmeline's bedside. The air was thick with the weight of untold stories, and Vita Winter's presence was a comforting anchor in the sea of uncertainty. She was the keeper of secrets, and as she took my hand, I felt the final pieces of the puzzle falling into place. "Margaret," Vita began, her voice a frail thread weaving through the silence, "it's time you knew the entire truth." Her eyes reflecting a lifetime of sorrow and wisdom locked onto mine. The story of the twins is the story of loss and love, of power and despair. She spoke of Emmeline and Adeline, two souls bound by blood yet divided by fate. Adeline, the master of manipulation, had twisted their bond to her will, ensnaring Emmeline in a web of deceit. Adeline's charm was her weapon, and she wielded it without mercy. Vita explained. The tale unfolded, each revelation more harrowing than the last. Charlie, the brother shadowed by tragedy, became a pawn in Adeline's cruel game. His untimely death, a dark chapter in the family's history, was a burden unjustly placed upon Emmeline's shoulders. Why would Adeline do such a thing? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Control," Vita replied, the word hanging in the air, heavy with implication. She craved dominance, to be the puppeteer of our fates, and she would go to any lengths to ensure her supremacy. The room fell silent as the gravity of Vita's words settled upon us. Emmeline, a mere shadow of her vibrant self, seemed to shrink further into the bed, her life's flame flickering in the oppressive gloom. "Emmeline," I whispered, reaching out to her. "The diary. You mentioned Adeline's diary?" Her eyes, once bright with mischief and life, now dull with the pain of betrayal, met mine. "Yes," she rasped, the effort of speech etching lines of strain on her face. "In the library. Behind the false panel, the truth lies hidden. With a newfound determination, I left Emmeline's side to unearth the secrets that had long been buried. The Angelfield house, once a symbol of grandeur, now whispered of its decayed glory and the specters of its past. I located the false panel in the library just as Emmeline had described. Behind it lay the diary, its leather cover cracked and worn. As I turned the pages, the ink, faded by time, spoke of the anguish and the intricate dance of manipulation that had ensnared a family. Adeline's diary laid bare the depths of her machinations, the despair that had consumed Charlie, and the rift that had torn. The Diary, Chapter 9. The Diary's Secret. In the attic's faint glow, Emmeline perused the aged diary, its secrets of Angelfield House beckoning. Adeline, intrigued by the notion of a garden specter, joined her. The diary revealed their brother Charlie's violent act with a violin and hinted at murder behind John the Dig's death. It also alluded to a lost brother, vanished before their time. Resolute, they delved into the diary, seeking the veiled truths of their lineage. Emmeline's eyes scanned the pages, her finger tracing the faded ink as she searched for more clues. "There's a mention of a hidden room," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Hester wrote that it was concealed behind a bookshelf in the library. Adeline's eyes sparkled with excitement as Emmeline continued. "It seems our family has been hiding secrets for generations." Together they decided to investigate further, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Cinderella's Child. In a modest village, a young woman named Ella lived with her mother, Cinderella. They resided in a humble cottage, a stark contrast to the opulent lives of the nobility. Despite their simple existence, Ella was curious and ambitious, yearning for a life beyond the confines of their small home. She often pondered her place in the world and dreamed of a future where she could rise above the circumstances of her birth. Cinderella, once acquainted with royalty, now faced the reality of raising her daughter alone. The absence of Ella's father, a man of noble birth, was a silent testament to a love that crossed societal boundaries but ended in heartache. Ella's resolve to carve her own path in life grew stronger with each passing day, fueled by the love and lessons from her mother. Together, they navigated the complexities of their situation, finding strength in each other and hope for a brighter tomorrow. Ella often wondered about her father's identity and the circumstances that led to her parents' separation. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, she gathered the courage to ask her mother about the past. "Mother," she began, her voice laced with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. "Tell me about my father. Why do we live here, away from the grandeur of castles and the lives of princesses?" Cinderella's eyes, reflecting the fading light, held a myriad of emotions as she considered her response. "Your father," she started, her voice soft and filled with a mixture of fondness and sadness, "was a man of noble birth, yes, but our love story was not meant to be. He chose me, a commoner, as his bride, but his family rejected our union. When I became with child, your father's family denied us their support, and we were left to forge our own path, away from the privileges of royalty." Ella listened intently, her eyes never leaving her mother's face. "But why do they reject us, Mother? What happened to make them turn their backs on us?" Cinderella sighed, the weight of the past pressing upon her shoulders. "It was a combination of factors, my dear. Their disapproval of our match, the societal expectations they held dear, and perhaps a twist of fate that steered us onto a different path. But know this, Ella, your father loved us, and he would have protected us if he could. It is because of him that we have this cottage, a sanctuary where we can be safe and call our own." Ella's heart swelled with a mixture of emotions, gratitude for her father's provision, sadness for the love that could not withstand the pressures of their world, and a newfound understanding of the challenges her parents had faced. "I understand, Mother," she said softly, reaching out to take Cinderella's hand in hers. "I'm grateful for all that you've done to raise me, and I promise to forge my own path, just as you did." Together we will create a future free from the shadows of our past. And in that moment, as the last rays of sunlight faded away, Ella felt a sense of determination ignite within her. She would embrace the complexities of her lineage and strive to build a life that honored the sacrifices of her parents, guided by the enduring love that had brought them together.